This is a story of the 6th richest man in Malaysia, the only Tamil in Malaysia top 10 richest, Ananda Krishnan, that passed away in late 2024. He was one of the founding team of Petronas and also the one that came up with the idea of Petronas Twin Tower. He launched Malaysia's first Measat satellite into the space, introduced 3G mobile network to all Malaysians via Maxis, and started Astro Malaysia so we all can watch Disney. Ananda Krishnan business was not without controversy. He was always known to be a buddy-buddy to Mahathir. He was given independent power producer license directly in the 1990s, and he owned number forecasting license to start Damacai Toto business. All in all, Ananda Krishnan's business decision has shaped Malaysia today. Hey guys, it's HY, your investing friend. Welcome to the 6th episode of our Malaysia Corporate History Series. We will cover all important businesses in Malaysia and how these businesses change Malaysia economy today. Malaysia Corporate History Series, sponsored by Mumu Malaysia.
Mumu is a regulated stockbroker in Malaysia that are used not only to trade Bursa Malaysia stocks, but also US, Hong Kong, China, and Singapore market. Now, you can even invest in unit trusts like money market fund with Mumu. Like Mumu CashPlus is now giving you 6% return up to 30,000 ringgit for 30 days. Other than investing, you can also learn how to invest in Mumu's community. Many good information like which company is in the AI value chain, which company gives very high dividend. All these infos are shared for free in Mumu's community. When you want to deposit, remember to search special deposit, join now, and key in our code do it what a.
Ananda Krishnan was born in 1938. He grew up in Brixfield, Little India. Ananda Krishnan's grandfather was brought to Malaysia from Sri Lanka by the British to work as civil servant. His father also continued to become civil servant after that. So Ananda Krishnan, he grew up in this kind of environment. Middle-class family in Malaysia that was recovering from World War II. In his secondary school, he attended Victoria Institution in KL, the oldest secondary school in Malaysia. Many big shots came from this school. One of them is Francis Yeo from YTL. He attended the same school years later. Watch our video about history of YTL here. In 1956, Ananda Krishnan won a scholarship to study at University of Melbourne, Australia. Over there, he was an editor for a student paper, Farrago, and he also runs a betting operation on the side of his university years. Those were his first experience of media and gambling businesses. In 1959, Ananda Krishnan returned to Malaysia and started working for Guthrie Berhad, a UK company based in Malaysia. There are many interesting stories about this company that is known as Sime Darby Plantation, which changed its name to SD Guthrie recently. Anyway, this is a story for another day. Back to Ananda Krishnan, he was then awarded a fellowship by Ford Foundation to study business in Harvard University. This opportunity was a big turning point for Ananda Krishnan because Harvard was where he built his network that later became very important when he started his business empire. In 1964, Ananda Krishnan graduated from Harvard University. 1 year later, after Malaysia was established, poverty in our country was everywhere. Malaysia needed a direction to transform the economy. Ananda Krishnan started his first company, Management Associate International Holding. Through his network that he built in US Harvard and Melbourne University, he brokered and consulted many deals in Southeast Asia. One of his biggest deals back then was mineral securities. From there, Ananda Krishnan made his first bucket of gold. In 1967, a war happened in the Middle East. The Arab countries temporarily stopped exporting oil to the US. Oil price became very volatile. Ananda Krishnan, who already seen the world, quickly understood one thing: he who controls the oil controls the world. So in 1968, Ananda Krishnan started another company, Oil Trading. He took advantage and see this oil price fluctuation as an opportunity. Ananda Krishnan started to get involved in oil trading and acquisition of oil drilling concession in different countries. It was rumored that during his Harvard time, Ananda Krishnan was a buddy-buddy to Sheikh Yamani, the man who later became Saudi's oil minister. In 1973, the Middle East war escalated further. The Arab countries again stopped exporting oil to the US. The whole world went into a panic mode. An oil crisis happened and oil price shot up from $3 per barrel to $11 per barrel. Rumors say that Sheikh Yamani, the Saudi's oil minister, guaranteed Ananda Krishnan a daily supply of 100,000 barrels of crude oil. It was known that during this oil crisis time, Ananda Krishnan became super rich from being an oil trader. It was also during that time where Malaysia started to notice that oil can be the next big thing in Malaysia. In the 1970s, even after Malaysia achieved independence, All oil exploration activities in Malaysia were conducted and owned by foreign companies such as Shell and Astro under production sharing contract. Somehow in the 1960s and 70s, Malaysia, especially Sabah and Sarawak, discovered a lot of new oil. Our second Prime Minister, Tun Abdul Razak, si bebe shocked and not happy about this because Malaysia got oil and oil price during 1970 was very high. But all the benefit Astro and Shell take, Malaysia, what also didn't get? Also in the 1970s, after the 1969 racial riot, Malaysia implemented MEP new economic policy with a goal to empower Bumiputra. With all these reasons, Petronas was incorporated in 1974 as Bumi Managed Business, and it is given power by the Petroleum Development Act to have exclusive power over Malaysia petroleum resources. Tengku Razaleigh was given the job to set up Petronas. And Ananda Krishnan, that got rich and successful through trading oil, was invited to become the advisor to set up and grow Petronas. This has caught the attention of Mahathir. Even until today, Petronas is still the biggest company in Malaysia. From year 2000 to 2024, Petronas has paid over 600 billion ringgit in dividend to its only shareholder, the Malaysia government. Throughout 1970s and 80s, with his connection, Ananda Krishnan was busy brokering deals with Malaysia Petronas, Indonesia Pertamina, and Philippines National Oil Corp. In 1981, Mahathir became Malaysia's fourth Prime Minister. It was said that Ananda Krishnan was already buddy-buddy to him at that time. Ever since Mahathir became the Prime Minister, Ananda was on a home run. In 1982, Ananda Krishnan was named as Director of Bank Negara. In 1984, he officially served as Director of Petronas. Ananda Krishnan once said this: "The oil trading business is a very exciting business, but this is not a business that you would want on your children. You make a little bit of money and you say, thanks goodness, that's over." So Ananda Krishnan was trying hard to diversify away from oil trading business. In 1984, Ananda Krishnan started his famous company, Usaha Tegas. In Malaysia, you almost never see Ananda Krishnan holding any company directly, because this Usaha Tegas is the ultimate holding of all his Malaysia business. Towards the end of 1980s, Ananda Krishnan had a license to start a number forecasting business, aka the jackpot business Pan Malaysia Pools Sdn Bhd, famously known as this kuda Damacai. Gambling business is a sure win business because the house always wins. With this, Ananda Krishnan built his first business with stable cash flow, unlike his previous oil trading business that was unstable and depending on oil price. With this stable cash flow business, Ananda Krishnan was ready to make his next big move. If the 1970s marked the beginning of Ananda Krishnan's journey to success, then the 1980s were the years where he built the foundation of his empire. With this foundation in place, it was time for him to shine in the 1990s. Ananda Krishnan made three important business decisions in the 1990s to 2000 decade. The first one is none other than the idea of Petronas Twin Tower. In 1991, Mahathir announced Wawasan 2020 with a target to make Malaysia a developed country by 2020. But at that time, KL still not like today, very modern, got many tall buildings. So our government was thinking very hard how to make Malaysia stand out to the world. In 1991, there was a huge land beside Jalan Ampang where the old Selangor Turf Club was sitting. This Selangor Turf Club was for people to race horse and gamble on. So every time got match, the road outside traffic jam gao. So our government asked Selangor Turf Club to siam GP and relocate to other place. Ngam, the timing very good. Ananda Krishnan was a member of Selangor Turf Club. He suddenly got one big land up for sale in KL. He straight away bought the land for 110 million ringgit and paid 320 million ringgit for land conversion. This Ananda Krishnan, very smart. He knew him being a Tamil. If he developed this huge project alone without Bumiputra, other people confirm kiki kakak. He also knew Malaysia government original plan was to convert the huge piece of land into a public park, like New York City Central Park. So Ananda Krishnan gave a very good proposal to our government. He will work with Petronas together on this huge project, because at that point of time, Petronas was the only Bumi company that got the money to do this. He will also turn half of the land into a public park, just like what the government wanted. With this very good proposal, our government straight away approved this development. So Petronas invested 681 million ringgit with 51% stake in this project. Ananda Krishnan retained the remaining 49%, which he eventually sold everything 10 years later in 2002 to Petronas for 1.2 billion ringgit. Since then, Malaysia has the tallest twin tower in the world, and Ananda Krishnan walked away with billions in his pocket. This story tells us the importance of having quality info sent to you. The KLCC plan might not succeed if Ananda Krishnan didn't receive the news of government government planned to turn it into a public park. Just like how Momo can always give you quality and timely info, even those paid articles in Wall Street Journal, you can read it for free in Momo. And you can switch on notifications for the companies in your watch list. Whenever there's a new announcement, you can quickly use Momo AI function to summarize the announcement for you. Don't need to read 50 pages announcement anymore. Too slow already. It can even translate the announcement to your language. Invest with Momo now and grab their account opening rewards up to 2,000 ringgit and become a better investor. Back to Ananda Krishnan. In 1991, the same year when Mahathir announced Wawasan 2020, Ananda Krishnan made his second big decision. He took control of this company called Tanjong Tin Dredging that was dual listed in UK and Malaysia Stock Exchange. Used Tanjong Tin Dredging to acquire Pan Malaysia Pools that holds Kuda, Damacai, and changed Tanjong Tin Dredging name to Tanjong PLC. With this, he completed the whole reverse takeover of Tanjong Tin Dredging. Tanjong PLC became a number forecasting business holding Damacai brand. Remember this Tanjong PLC company because many years later it will appear in Malaysia's biggest scandal 1MDB. Anyway, after Mahathir became the Prime Minister, he started a privatization wave to privatize many government assets. In 1990s, Malaysia government introduced 5 independent power producers into our power generation system to supply at least 30% of Malaysia's electricity demand. Ananda Krishnan via Powertek Berhad was one of the beneficiaries that got the independent power producer license directly. We also covered the story of how YTL benefited from this power producer license in our previous video. The power rate for these first generation independent power producers was so good. The cash was just pouring into their business. Ananda Krishnan then listed Powertek on Bursa in 1996. The last big decision that Ananda Krishnan made in the 1990s was his big bet in the sky. He now targeted the telecommunication industry in Malaysia because in 1987, Mahathir broke down the monopoly of Jabatan Telekom Malaysia into JTM, which is now known as MCMC, and Telekom Malaysia Berhad, the operator. Private players can now enter the telecommunication business. So with the money from Damacai and KLCC, Ananda Krishnan set up Binariang in 1993. Same playbook, our government gave a few players the license to operate mobile network, and Binariang was one of them. So Ananda Krishnan used the mobile network license to launch Maxis in 1995. Maxis became the biggest cell phone operator with most subscribers, but Ananda Krishnan did not stop here. Mahathir wanted Malaysia to have our own satellite system. So Ananda Krishnan, that earned Mahathir's trust after the KLCC project, launched our first satellite in 1996. And to thank Ananda Krishnan for the successful launch, Mahathir gave Ananda Krishnan 20 years exclusivity for satellite broadcasting. So in 1996, Astro was born using Measat satellite and protected from any competition until 2017. But the sun don't shine forever. In 1998, the Asian financial crisis hit. Ringgit crashed from 2 ringgit 50 cents to 4 ringgit 88 cents against US dollar. Binariang, the holding company for Maxis, Astro and Measat, almost collapsed overnight because that time it has around 800 million US dollar loan, and these loans became almost 2 times more expensive overnight. And Malaysia's stock market also crashed cao. Many Malaysian companies almost bankrupt during the Asian financial crisis, especially those that Mahathir gave license directly, including Celcom and Time that asked government to bail them out. Ananda Krishnan refused a government bailout to save Binariang. He made 3 things to save Binariang. Number 1, he fired 1/3 of Astro staff and stopped Astro's expansion plan to save cash. Number 2, he negotiated with Maxis suppliers to convert the upfront 200 million ringgit cash payment to loan. Number 3, he sold 33.3% of Binariang to British Telecom in July 1998 for 420 million US dollar cash injection. Then he used the money to clear their short-term US dollar loan. This saved his company from collapsing. While Binariang was struggling with that, Tanjong PLC has too much cash. Arab Malaysia Development Berhad, which is known as M Bank today, held 22% shareholding in Powertek, was suffering from Asian financial crisis too, so they were forced to sell Powertek shares to survive. Ananda Krishnan used Tanjong PLC that has a lot of cash to acquire this 22% and launched an offer to privatize Powertek. This offer was successful and Tanjong PLC now has 2 cash cow business, the Kuda Damacai gambling business and the Powertek power business. In short, Ananda Krishnan survived Asian financial crisis without losing too much. After the Asian financial crisis, immediately came the telecom and dot-com bubble. British Telecom that invested 1.8 billion ringgit into Binariang was suffering badly from dot-com and telecom bubble burst. British Telecom was forced to sell their 33.3% shareholding in Binariang to raise cash. Ananda Krishnan bought back the shares from British Telecom at 1.9 billion ringgit, just 100 million ringgit higher when he sold the shares to British Telecom. Now that he fully controlled the company again, in 2002, Ananda Krishnan listed Maxis with 900 million ringgit profit and 3 million paid subscribers on Bursa with a market valuation of 12 billion ringgit, cashing out billions in his pocket. In 2003, Ananda Krishnan again listed Astro with loss of 320 million ringgit and 1.1 million paid customers at market valuation of 5 billion ringgit, again cashing out billions in his pocket. With these two IPO, Ananda Krishnan completely rebounded from Asian financial crisis. His business empire is now much richer, stronger and stable. Note that you can apply IPO in Momo app too. There will be a few exciting IPOs in Malaysia this year, like Sunway Medical, Skytrip, RT Pastry, Empire Sushi, so be prepared earlier. Now that Ananda Krishnan has conquered Malaysia, he's aiming for the world. The first place he looked at was a place where he has natural advantage and a growing market with 1 billion population, India. Ananda Krishnan wanted to repeat his Malaysia telecom success in India. In 2005, India has very low mobile penetration, so the potential reward is huge. Ananda Krishnan used Maxis to acquire 74% of XL India for $1 billion. There was allegation that there was bribery involved in this deal, because few months later, Astro invested $130 million in Sun Direct TV, a company held by brother of India Telecom Minister. More on this later. The India venture was successful. Paid subscribers skyrocketed. Looking at the growth, Maxis kept pumping money into SL India. Billions and billions was needed to continue India's expansion. This was way more than what the public listed Maxis can swallow. So in 2007, Ananda Krishnan spent 17 billion ringgit to acquire the remaining Maxis shares that he didn't own and privatize Maxis. After the privatization, he sold 25% of Maxis to Saudi Telecom for 11 billion ringgit to partly recover his privatization cost. On the other hand, Ananda Krishnan gambling and power business in Tanjong PLC was also expanding globally. In 2006, Tanjong PLC acquired 2 power plants in Egypt for 1.2 billion ringgit. In 2007, Tanjong PLC again acquired another 7 power plants in Egypt, Bangladesh, Pakistan, Sri Lanka for $538 million. Tanjong PLC then became a very huge conglomerate with business in power, gambling, leisure, and investors also started to give company a conglomerate discount. Since Ananda Krishnan listed some of his companies on Bursa stock market, he became very fluent in the stock market. He did 5 big corporate actions to unlock more value for his business empire. First, in 2009, Ananda Krishnan released Maxis onto Bursa for 38 billion ringgit. But this time, he excluded Maxis international business in the IPO. Remember, Ananda Krishnan delisted the whole Maxis group for 39 billion ringgit in 2007. Now with just Maxis Malaysia, the valuation was already 38 billion ringgit. And Ananda Krishnan again walked away with billions in his pocket after this IPO. Then in 2010, Ananda Krishnan privatized 2 of his companies, Astro and Tanjong PLC. He spent 8.2 billion ringgit to privatize Astro, take out the international business. He then released Astro Malaysia onto Bursa in 2012 for 15 billion ringgit. He again walked away with billions in his pocket after Astro IPO. Then Ananda Krishnan also privatized Tanjong PLC. Because Tanjong PLC has too many businesses in one company, investors didn't like this and it was suffering from conglomerate discount. So he spent 8.8 billion ringgit to privatize Tanjong PLC. And in 2012, he sold all the power assets to 1MDB for 8.5 billion ringgit cash, right before 1MDB scandal kaboom. In 2011, Ananda Krishnan saw that oil price was increasing strongly, from $40 per barrel in 2009 to $100 per barrel in 2011. He then listed one of his oil and gas servicing business to Bursa, Bumi Armada. Bumi Armada was the 8th largest FPSO player in the world that time. Since Ananda Krishnan IPO'd the business at peak oil price, he cashed out almost 700 million ringgit from this IPO. In 2015, Ananda Krishnan sold his Damacai gambling business to Jana Pendidikan Malaysia, which is owned by 12 Tan Sri tycoons in Malaysia, for 2.1 billion ringgit. Because he saw that the gambling business was starting to face more regulatory problems in Malaysia. After the sale, again he walked away with billions in his pocket. In total, Ananda Krishnan cashed out over 10 billion ringgit from these 5 deals. But this was also when his good luck starts running out, because this money was actually used to save his business empire. The first crack in Ananda Krishnan's business empire was his investment into Aircel India. In 2014, India's FBI charged Ananda Krishnan, Maxis and Astro for bribing the India telecom minister, with Astro investing 600 million ringgit into Sun Direct at massive premium so that the India telecom minister will force the existing owner of Aircel India to sell to Maxis. An arrest warrant was issued to Ananda Krishnan. So Ananda Krishnan was a wanted man in India. But he never got India, so he was not captured by the India government. In 2016, the competition in India telecom business became even worse. India richest man, Mukesh Ambani, launched Reliance Jio and provided free 4G data and free voice call for everyone. This immediately killed Aircel India. They were bleeding paid subscribers every day. Ananda Krishnan wanted to merge Aircel India with bigger players to survive, but the India Supreme Court don't allow the merger unless Ananda Krishnan appear in the court. But he was a wanted man in India, so he don't want to go to India. The deal was called off, and Aircel India bankrupt in 2018. Maxis lost over $7 billion in this India investment, and Ananda Krishnan net worth also dropped by $7 billion. No longer is the second richest man in Malaysia. The second crack in Ananda Krishnan's business empire was the collapse of Bumi Armada. In 2018, Bumi Armada main FPSO, Armada Kraken, the main power generator failed in the sea, cannot pump oil from the seabed. Share price immediately crashed. Bumi Armada's customer also refused to pay because there is no oil. At the same time, Bumi Armada got 1.6 billion ringgit short-term loan which will due soon. If cannot pay, Bumi Armada will bankrupt. So Ananda Krishnan stepped in to nego directly with the banks and successfully refinanced the short-term loans to long-term loans. But that was not enough. Bumi Armada was forced to sell other non-core assets to raise cash. Ananda Krishnan also need to use Usaha Tegas to inject another 300 million ringgit into Bumi Armada so that the company can survive the downturn. When everything stabilized, in 2023, Armada Kraken FPSO failed again. Share price immediately crashed Kaukau. The company used 3 months to fix the problem and reach full production. Bumi Armada suffered 150 million ringgit loss in revenue in that 3 months. Luckily that the company has some cash to swallow this loss. The third crack in Ananda Krishnan's business empire is the slow collapse of Astro Malaysia. Astro was once a 15 billion ringgit company at its peak. People started to watch YouTube and Netflix instead of Astro. It also signals the end of traditional TV era, because there's nothing that you can do to fight against the inevitable shift of an era. On 28th of November 2024, Ananda Krishnan passed away at 86 years old. We see the end of an era in Malaysia. Some call him visionary that put Malaysia on the map. Others call him crony who benefited from being at the right place at the right time. But one thing is for sure, Malaysia will never be the same without Ananda Krishnan. Today, his only son chose to become a monk and gave up inheritance. And his 2 daughters are not interested in taking over the business. And Ananda Krishnan's business empire will be managed by his business trust and trusted managers and continue to bring lasting impact to Malaysia in the future. This is the story of Ananda Krishnan, a man who knows how to ride the wave throughout his life. Just like our sponsor Momo, that shows you company to invest in based on investment teams. For example, AI is the future. You can choose the AI chip investment team and start studying all these companies. Save a lot of your time from researching. If you know any story about Ananda Krishnan, please share in the comment section. That's all for today's video. Until then, stay safe and stay strong investing. I will see you in the next video. Bye bye!